Hi everyone, my name's Christine and I'm the art teacher for Project Inc. at Queen Street Mill in Burnley. In this video today I want to show you how to use watercolour paints and experiment with them with different techniques and processes to get the right effects that you want. So first of all, to go through the materials, we need watercolour paints and you need a selection of different colours so that you can experiment with those. A selection of brushes, and ideally you'd need a flat brush because they're good for blending different colours together and for doing different backgrounds and larger areas too. Pointed brushes, now they're good for detail and also for mark making as well, so they're very important to have as well. Then you'll need a paper towel. We use the paper towel so that it helps us to get the right amount of water on the brush, because you'll need different amounts of water for different techniques, and it's all about experimenting and finding out which works best. And you'll see I've cut off a piece of the paper towel, and that's to use for one of the techniques. 2 pots of water, and that's to keep your brushes clean in between different colours, because if you mix too many different colours together you end up with really muddy colours and then it's not very nice and it's quite hard work. So this works really well if you have 2 pots of water. So you rinse in one, then you rinse in the other one, and then you might dry it on the towel a bit and then use whichever colour you want to, and it's perfect. So first of all we're going to look at blending the paints. So for this technique you need to have your flat brush. These come in lots of different sizes, but for this today you only really need this size, this will be fine. And what we're going to do, we're going to wet the brush, make sure there's plenty of water on the brush but you don't want it dripping, and then we'll go for the blue and make sure you've got plenty of paint on your brush to get a good strong colour, and then apply this to the paper. When you apply the paint to the paper you do this quite lightly, so that's how you get your colours a lot smoother. Then we're going to change the colour over, so we're going to rinse the brush in one water pot, then rinse it in the other one, and then we're going to go for a yellow. Make sure again you've got plenty of paint on the brush, and then you're going to add this on. So that you don't have this line going through it, if you put a bit more water on the brush and then lightly go over the top of it, that can work quite well. Or you might want to add some more of the blue, but you can play around with this really to get the desired effect that you want. And that's how you sort of blend the colours together. So this time we'll go for orange, plenty of paint on the brush, and again apply this gently to the paper. And I think we'll rinse the brush off, and this time we'll have a red. So these colours aren't that different really in the palette, but actually when you mix them on the paper you can see this one's a lot pinker, but it's quite nice just experimenting with the different colours together to see what they look like. You can also experiment with just one colour. So if we go back to the blue, start off with plenty of water, plenty of paint on the brush, apply to the paper so you've got quite a nice strong colour. So if you want to go lighter with that colour, the way to get it lighter is to add more water. So you don't want it dripping everywhere, but you just add a bit more water and then you just keep moving the paint across the paper. And the more water and the less paint, the lighter the colour. So you can play around with it to get the right effect. The other thing is, if you apply the paint and you apply the blue paint and then you decide, I don't like that, it's not what I want. So the way to deal with that is make sure you've got clean water, plenty of clean water on your brush. Make sure this is really wet, really saturate it, and then you can take one of your pieces of paper and just blot it out. Just keep blotting it, and it removes most of the paint. I think it's hard to remove all of it, but it removes most of it. So if, for example, you wanted then to go for a different blue, that's quite a nice way of doing it. So if we go for this darker blue, we can just paint that over the top. So that's blending really, and you need to just experiment with lots of different colours, try out all the different colours in the palette and explore them and find out what you like. The next technique we're going to look at is called wet on wet, and the reason it's called wet on wet is because what we're going to do, we're going to use the flat brush again. We're going to put lots of water on the brush, and then you're going to apply this to the paper, and you probably can't see this, but the paper is soaking, it's really saturated. You need lots and lots of water. Then what you do is you apply your paint, and we'll go with this lovely red crimson colour. Lots of paint on the brush and lots of water, and then we'll apply this to the water, and you can see the way it disperses over the paper, so you get this lovely effect. And it's really nice if you were doing something like skies, water, landscape, all that sort of thing, that you get really nice effects. Or if you just want to do some nice patterns, it's a nice thing to do. The downside, I suppose, is that you don't really have much control over what you're doing, but it can be quite nice to experiment with, so have a go at doing that. The other way you can do this is you can apply lots of water to the brush and then lots of paint to the brush, so you're actually starting off with lots of water to start with. So it is slightly different to before, it's a lot more versatile. Now we're going to look at mark making techniques, and there's lots of different mark making techniques that you can use. So to do this, we're going to experiment with all of these brushes. So we've got the flat brush and the different sizes of the pointed brushes. So if you take the flat brush to start with, some water on your brush, and if we go with the orange, plenty of paint on the brush, and then we can apply this by creating different patterns on the paper, which is quite nice. You can also, the other thing you can do with this is, we use a different red this time, you can actually move the brush around, which is quite a nice, can be quite a nice effect as well. So it's good fun really, just playing around with it and seeing what you can do. Then if we take the pointed brush, then you could do squiggles, quite good fun, lines, really anything you want to do. Just play around with those as well. You can also do what we call stippling. So with this I'm using a slightly smaller brush, but it doesn't really matter which one you use. I just thought we'd have a go at using this one. And with this one, stippling is really just lots of dots or dashes to create texture. And you could actually apply different colours as well to mix it up a bit, to get different tones going through your work, which would be nice. If you take your fine brush, it's really nice for adding detail. So if we add blue, apply lots of blue, it's quite nice for doing really fine dots, specks and lots of detail. So just those small areas that you just can't get to, and you just want to add something interesting to your paper. That's a nice way of working. For this next technique, we're going to look at dabbing. So dabbing is really when you apply the paint first. So again, apply plenty of paint. Make sure it's quite wet, so you might need to add a bit more water so it's quite wet. And then take your paper towel, scrunch it up and just create some patterns over the top. So you can do that by removing the paint, or alternatively you could actually wet this slightly. And should we take a different colour? Just try this out. And then add some different colours over the top. So it's very subtle that, but you can just about see the difference. So we could try that with a different colour. So this time let's try it with the blue. So apply your blue to the paper. You can actually mix these colours together as well. It's just they end up quite messy, so you'd have to keep washing them every now and again. But you can do that as well. That's absolutely fine. So maybe we'll do that this time. So let's mix the blue and the red together, so you can see how they sort of get quite mucky, but it is quite a nice way of working. And then you get these nice sort of purpley magenta colours, which are lovely. And then I'm going to take the rag again, you might see it better this time, and then remove some of the paint, so you get these lovely textures going through the surface. And then for the last technique, I just want to show you flicking, which is really good fun, but you do have to be careful here that you're not going to flick it on anything else that matters really. So wet your brush, but this time, whereas before we wanted quite a lot of water on the brush, this time we don't want too much, and it is about getting it right, so it is trial and error. So plenty of paint again on the brush, and if you don't get it right the first time, then just try again. Then you're going to take your finger and literally just flick it onto the paper. So you can see there's not a lot on there, so I didn't really put enough on there. So let's go again, and this time we'll have a bit more. So let's do the same colours again, because that was nice. And we're going to flick it onto the paper, and you can see the really lovely effect that you get. Very good fun. So I would suggest that you go away and you practice these and have a play around with all the different techniques that we've looked at today, and just, as I've said, just have lots and lots of fun experimenting, trying out different colours, mixing colours together, and just find out what you can do with the paints, because really that's the only way to really learn and to find out what you like and what works for you and what works for the piece of work that you're going to do, and just enjoy it. That's the main thing. Just have really lots of fun and enjoy what you're doing. So that's it really for now. So thank you very much. And next time we're going to be looking at how you actually apply some of these techniques to a painting. So see you next time. Thank you.